song. Let us not give in to easy admiration. Let us agree to stand with King only after we have peered into the depths of his prophetic warnings. For only then will we recognize that the truth he speaks does not fit comfortably straight out of the box, but requires honest introspection along with eyes wide open to the human degradation before us and our own participation in it. We may not like the rhetoric of prophetic revolutionaries all the time, but in their apocalyptic images of impending judgment on structures of privilege and injustice, we usually encounter a more accurate depiction of the life and death struggles occurring in our world. More accurate, Kelly Brown Douglas tells us, than the depiction given by those who would like to preserve the myth of manifest destiny and white privilege as earned and the grand narrative of exceptionalism. The apocalyptic picture is not the illusion of a deluded mind, but moral dread that arises in the face of human dereliction that threatens all life on our planet. For this reason, King calls for dissatisfaction. He says, "Let us be dissatisfied until America will no longer have a high blood pressure of creeds and an anemia of deeds. Let us be dissatisfied until those who live on the outskirts of hope are brought into the metropolis of daily security. Let us be dissatisfied until stones are cast into the junk heaps of history and every family will leave in a decent, sanitary home. Let us be dissatisfied until the day when the lion and the lamb shall lie down together and every person will sit under their own vine and fig tree, and none shall be afraid. Noisy and relentless will the prophet be until God makes good on the promise of vindication. King, like any prophet, was impatient. He said, "We are faced with the fact, my friends, that tomorrow is today. We are confronted with the fierce urgency of now. In this unfolding conundrum of life and history, there is such a thing as being too late." You know these words. Procrastination is still the thief of time. Life often leaves us standing bare, naked and dejected with a lost opportunity. Over the bleached bones and jumbled residues of numerous civilizations are written the pathetic words, "Too late." It is an unlikely time indeed to issue a word of hope and imagination. Yet a prophet knows that the worst time is the apt time. The moment to speak up is exactly that time when we're tempted to drop to our knees in defeat. This time that sits on the edge of resignation and nihilism is, declares the prophet, exactly the time. The people have had enough. In King's litany on time, he declares, there comes a time when people get tired of being trampled over by the iron feet of oppression. There comes a time, my friends, when people get tired of being plunged across the abyss of humiliation, where they experience the bleakness of nagging despair. There comes a time when people get tired of being pushed out of the glittering sunlight of life's July and left standing amid the piercing chill of an alpine November. There comes a time. King's refusal to relinquish the agony of hope is in effect his great act of faith, his pact with the impossible. As a child of the promise, King is moved by the provocation of something calling from afar, the provocation of what is to come against the self-satisfaction of present complacency. Indifference can only be a foreclosure on the future. Such closure would be the height of injustice. King believed that a deal had been cut between the divine and human beings who are in regular need of prophets to remind them that they no longer heed the call. King believed that the obstacle to the promise, that disruption of the future, is hopelessness. Faith, on the other hand, is the opening to the future King longed for. On his knees, he prayed and wept over something to come, and sought comfort from his faith in the unforeseeable. We can almost see King now weeping for the daily murders and social death of black bodies. In its self-righteousness, the community is allowed with silence. We will have to repent not merely for the hateful words and actions of those who are violent, but for the appalling silence of those who are virtuous. King resolves to break the silence and declares, now is the time to make real the promises. A time has come, he says, when silence is betrayal. Some of us who have already begun to speak, break the silence of the night, have found that the calling to speak is often a vocation of agony. But we must speak. We must speak with all the humility that is appropriate to our limited vision, but we must speak. We are called to speak for the weak, the voiceless, for the victims of our nation, for those it calls enemy. For no document from human hands can make these humans any less our sisters and brothers. We recognize that King's prophetic speaking is indeed a vocation of agony. King knew the heart and soul meaning of what Alice Walker meant when she said a womanist loves struggle. In order to think together King and faith, I call up the great womanist scholar Kelly Brown Douglas to give testimony, and to her I give the last word. Black faith was forged in the midst of the perverse and tragic paradoxes of black life, she writes. It is a faith, therefore, that does not ignore the unthinkable and irrational terror of black living. It takes it seriously. It does not belittle or romanticize the pains and sufferings of black bodies. It does not revel in illusions and false hope. Black faith, says Kelly Brown Douglas, is a testimonial of the divine human interaction between God and black people, as such a witness to black reality and black hope. With all humility that is appropriate to our limited vision, we celebrate the legacy of King, and we are grateful for his witness to black reality and black hope in all its struggle and all